Hello, everybody. Going to, just found out that we're on another 3 weeks of this lockdown because of the coronavirus. So I can't do my classes, my normal classes. Got to keep distance from everybody. And so I'm hoping that one way of getting to odd people is through this type of thing. So that's why I'm doing it. Right. So what I'm going to do is do I think some steps to happiness, um, and I will do like one a week, um, and the 7 steps so far that I can think of, and then we'll do something else if uh, we're still on lockdown. Okay, so um, going to look at what makes us unhappy, because this is supposed to be about happiness, and as soon as we get like a cartoon bubble coming out of our head which says, "Oh, I'm fed up, I'm unhappy, and lockdown and misery and might die," well, I can mockery of that, I might die myself. Um, so um, it's about thought, and thought can kill us, it can heal us. So today I'm going to talk about what thoughts are, and um, I never used to think about what thoughts are. I just used to get on with things, and I thought that if I didn't know what was going on, then I needed to learn a bit more and look at what other people were doing and what have you. And until I think it was when life started to kind of get to me a bit, and I kind of started questioning things, and certain people I looked up to. And for example, one day my boss said to me, me and you, because I was in manufacturing, very macho environment, and um, my boss said to me, "Oh, my missus wouldn't cope with all this lot because she's a simple soul." And I said to him, what do you mean by that? And I think what he really meant was, well, we're tough. We can lie and cheat and push, and everybody else is wimps, but we've got to get on with it because we worked in manufacturing. It was a male orientated thing. And I thought, well, his wife's, simple soul, but she's probably very honest, very nice. And he was saying, oh, people like that, they're not surviving this environment. I thought, the first time I started to think about, well, that's all a wrong way of thinking. Um, so is it this just an ego thing and the power thing? No, it's not. And realised that he certainly wasn't happy, and I didn't. Well, I looked up to him until that point, and I realised no, his thinking is not going to help my thinking, and I've got to get my thinking sorted out. So I started to look at what my thoughts were, and what they were doing, and what I was doing. So um, I started to try and understand about thought. And that is important because once we get an understanding of stuff, then we can do something with it. What I mean by that is until germ theory was kind of understood, then people just got ill. And until, say, people like Louis Pasteur came along and said, look, you can sterilize stuff, pasteurize stuff, get better because they're germs. Then we started to get a grip on it. Navigation was a problem when people thought that the earth was flat, and it was good for people who made anchors for ships because they needed an anchor to moor the ship and then another anchor in case the ship fell over the edge of the flat earth. So things like that, having a knowledge of things always helped us move forward. Um, as a young man, I used to work in the aircraft industry, and I learned very early on that the only way that people got further on with flying was because they knew how the shape of an aerofoil section, that's the wing shape, like that, gives lift. And once you understand that aerofoil shapes give different lift and drag characteristics, then you can design a better aeroplane. So you need to understand what's going on. Um, like, for example, gravity. We understand that if we lean over too far, we're going to fall and hurt ourselves. And we just know that gravity is there. But taking it even further, we understand gravity. That's why people who say landed on the moon they took into account all the calculations around gravity because they understood in essence what Newton's theory of gravity and all the rest of it, what was going on, and then later on Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, and so understood more about the world and was able to kind of move forward with science. So it all requires an understanding, and the understanding prevailing when I started with all this, I'm going on about 20 years ago, if you looked around, there was a lot of courses on psychology, which says, well, if you want to kind of be happy, well, maybe not much stuff around happiness, but we will look at what, we'll tell you all about neurosis and what poor mental health is and how you've got to basically cope and struggle through with what you've got. When I gained an understanding of happiness, it's just the opposite of that. I began to understand that we all have innate mental health. We're all resilient, and that once you see that there's many ways in which we are blocking that can be easily unblocked once we understand what is the nature of thought. So, first of all, is to understand that our thoughts give us our experience of life. It's like a cartoon bubble coming out of your head when you have a thought. That's what you experience. And the reason you experience it is because you see the thought in your mind's eye. So you're like reading the information on that bubble. So if it's a miserable sentence in that bubble, then it's a miserable thought, and just the opposite. If it's a joyous bubble, a joyous thought. And that's what we see. And the reason that we see that is because we have a thing called our consciousness, and it makes us aware of our thoughts. And there is, although it's a wonderful gift, this our consciousness, thereby lies the rub, because our consciousness is so great, it makes us see our thoughts in 3D IMAX with all the trimmings that comes with what our consciousness can do, which means that if we're thinking of horrible things and dragons and pestilence and coronavirus, then basically we're seeing it all in 3D IMAX, and it can be very frightening and very worrying. And if that can do for us, but until we realise that is how the system, that is the good aspects of the system and the bad aspects of the system, that some thoughts can really lift us and make us joyous, but others can drive us to suicide. So it is about consciousness, making us aware of our thoughts. It's our, in effect, it is our special effects department. Now, once we understand that we can have thoughts, and when I say thoughts, got to understand that you cannot not think. We all think. So it's no good saying, "No, I don't want to think nasty things," or "I'd love to just think nice things." Thoughts just come along. It's like a cauldron that is just like a soup that's bubbling along, and the bubbles are bursting, and some are good and some are bad. And the snag is that unhappiness can be caused by us looking out for the miserable bubbles, or picking on a miserable bubble and dissecting that miserable bubble and asking other people to look at the miserable bubble because this is what we have to put up with. That's just unhappiness. Now, so we have a system of thought, and that's what it does. All thoughts come through this system that we've got, and our consciousness makes us aware of these thoughts. It's doing a good job. And we also have, we're alive. We have a system of life's energy flowing through us that at the moment, whilst I'm speaking, because I'm speaking, there's all sorts of trillions of things going along in my head and my body and all the rest of it. And that's life, and it's got intelligence. And what we miss, because it's us and everybody else misses, is the fact that we've got this intelligent energy surrounding us, flowing through us. And that basically is what we've got going for ourselves. And people forget this. And when we split from knowing that, well, then that can wreak havoc for ourselves. Because in other words, we're thinking, oh, I can do it, I can tough it out, and all the rest of it, and I will rely upon my intelligence and my knowledge. No, there is. We have innate capabilities that when we need to call upon them, they are there. They always have been there. It's just that we have forgot that, we don't recognize that. But this is all part of this talk, is to try and understand um, how to be happier, because we understand what thought is. And this is what this talk is about. So one thing about thought is that when we have issues, problems, things crop up, that we try to wrestle with our psychological problems, and it doesn't work. There is a thing that Albert Einstein said. He said, we cannot solve problems at the level of which it was created. In other words, what he meant there was the level of thinking that created these problems in the first place. We're asking the same level of mind, of thinking, to solve it. It's a bit like asking someone, a thief who has just stolen something from you, going to that person and saying, can you find my possessions? It really can't help. It thinks it can, and it tries its best, and that's our ego. Always has a go. It's always there to get you out of it, or try and get you out of it, but in actual fact, it's the one that got you into it in the first place. So we've got to look at that, is that when we are at that head in the hand situation, oh, what is this? That our mind is not very clear. There's an old saying, analysis causes paralysis. It does. I've tried analysing problems to death, doesn't really work. And when we kind of can put that aside and go on to getting our mind clearer, then that is when our innate capabilities, our wisdom can come through. So what I'm saying is that what we have got going for ourselves is in actual fact quite wonderful. We have the equivalent of a thought factory. Now, what I mean by that is, because I used to be in manufacturing, produce things, and if you're not careful, that factory can produce products which are a bit wonky, which are defective. And that is basically the same as saying we've got thoughts in our mind which are a bit off centre, and because they're worrying us, we stick with those thoughts, and it's a bit like sticking with a product that doesn't work, producing a product in a factory that doesn't work. And because we get kind of focused on that, what we seem to forget, because in all this, is that we have a factory in the first place that is quite capable of producing all sorts of products. And if we stop focusing on crappy products, that factory is quite capable of producing some wonderful products that will help everyone. Now, so what I'm saying is that our thoughts can be good, bad, or indifferent. Now, how do we look at this? Good, bad, or indifferent? Yeah, obviously there are thoughts that we need to take quite seriously. So how real are our thoughts? Well, 1 and 1 equals 2. That's a real thought. If a car is coming towards you, in other words, going across the road, heading towards you, that is a real thought. That car is coming towards me, and you veer out of the way. Or that dog that is about to bite me, then that's a real thought, and it does bite you. Yeah. Then there is the psychological side of it, that having been bitten or having had a situation where a car veers towards you, then the next time you're traveling down the road, you are maybe thinking, oh, crikey, this happened, that happened. You're frightened of driving. Oh, every time you walk past a dog, you don't walk past a dog, you walk to the other side of the road, because you're frightened of dogs. Now, that is the difference between something that is real and something that is up in your head and is psychological. So, what is the truth? Sometimes because it's us thinking, when we have a bad thought, we will, say to us that is real, and it is so real it must be solved. But in actual fact, you're best sleeping on it, or what this talk is about, understanding it is a thought. Now, was it Shakespeare or somebody said, um, good or bad, only thinking makes it so, and it does. Now, what I'm saying here is many of our thoughts, all our thoughts are imaginings, that there are these balloon bubbles coming out. And of course, in Miracles, which is a great big thick thing book, but worth reading, that'll tell you a lot about how we think. That reinforces that idea by saying, and quoting here, nothing real can be threatened, nothing real exists. Herein lies the peace of God. In other words, what is being said is that a lot of the dragons that we imagine in our mind are not real. A lot of the things that we worry about regarding the future are not real. A lot of the things that we got upset about in the past, in this present moment, are not real. So why do we kind of, let that dwell on all that? Because it's just upsetting us, and it pushes bad chemicals into our system, and we become withdrawn. We're walking on the other side of the road to get away from those type of dogs that might bite us and all the rest of it. And so we're talking about looking at nasty thoughts as if they are real when they are, how real are they? And we have not. Oh, we should learn not to be afraid of our thoughts, and often we are, and we suffer because of that. And why we suffer is because our feelings come from thoughts. And so that means a bad thought, bad feeling, good thoughts, good feelings. And when I say thoughts are not real, um, when movies first came out, people on the front row ducked out of the way because they saw a train coming into the station. When they realised it wasn't a real train, it was just on the film, then they started to enjoy the film. So what I'm saying is that when you realise that you don't have to let your thoughts torture you because they are thoughts, then it's like enjoying a good movie, a thriller. The train's coming towards you, but crikey, it's not real. I'm enjoying it. So enjoy life, enjoy the movie. In other words, what I would say is get out the popcorn, start to enjoy it all. It's great. And all these kind of lessons here, these kind of understandings that I am attempting to put across to try and help you be happier, I do Pilates, and these understandings are like Pilates. Now, Pilates, as far as I can make out, is the instructor is trying to improve my core strength so that when I do bend over, I mean, I'm in my mid-70s now, so when I do bend over to pick something up, I don't put my back out as easily as I would because I've now got core strength because I do Pilates. And what I'm saying is that this understanding of how we think, and this is just the first lesson, I've got 7, well, I don't know, 5 and 2, next 7, is that it will strengthen us because we have got innate well-being, innate mental health. In other words, we may not think when we have the bad thoughts that we have, but we have. And that is, and I mentioned it earlier, we have got that as a backstop. So as I finish on this, it's beyond our gift to not think continuously because we can't stop thought. Thank God for that. We've got the gift of thought. But in taking our thoughts off the bad stuff, and that is my next talk, we get to feel the good stuff. So, in other words, what you focus on, what you dwell on, magnifies. So the misery magnet. If you think, oh, there's dragons, you'll see more dragons. If you think the world is a better place, and in fact, you'll get evidence. Wayne Dyer said this. When you believe it, you'll see it, and that is so true. And it's not just about belief. Well, maybe it is about initially having to believe these things, but when you start to practice that, you'll get the evidence coming back to you. So that's just my first little talk. I hope it's done some good. Plod on through this kind of, can't go down the pub, can't go. I went to the shops today, to Sainsbury's. I came back, queue right round the block. So I think we're having cornflakes for dinner, lunch, and evening meal. I don't know what we're having. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. Take care. Love you all. Cheery bye. Okay.